Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. It's Saturday morning. What? Why does Saturdays always feel different to any other days of the week? I don't know. Okay, today it's going to be a very, very short episode because it's a book review. I went, as I'm trying to find all the details and I can't find them. Mind you, there's not real details here. Anyway, it is episode 634. Yeah. So today's book is Jamie Carragher's autobiography, Carra. Or was it biography? I always get confused between autobiographies and biographies. It's the one he wrote himself. So is it autobiography? I don't know. And I should really learn that, to be honest, considering I read so much. Basically, I've been to Scotland recently and I've read like 3 books when I went to Scotland because I was on my own, so there's nothing else to do. So yeah, I enjoyed it. And I wanted to read something when I got a long journey in a car. I like to read something that I don't have to take notes about and I don't have to really think about. So Jamie Carragher is simple. All it is a book about Jamie Carragher's lifestyle. Not lifestyle, but Jamie Carragher's life from when he was a footballer, when he wanted to be a footballer when he was a young lad, to being a footballer, and so it was a journey. What stands out is the thing that stands out, because I always like to think about something that stands out in the book. Something that stood out to me is when he was 7 years old, he faked an injury, and because it was cold, it was wet, and it was like sleet or snow or something, and he came off a pitch. His dad went absolutely ballistic when he got home, and he threw some boots at him, and went mad, and he said that's given me the excuse me, that's given me the grounding, the upbringing that I needed, because I know now that I have to perform at a certain level, and I can't fake an injury. It's just life, and I was like, that's so interesting, because I don't know I do know what I do, because I've been in that situation recently with my son playing football when it was really, really cold. And I was really, really proud of him because he didn't moan or anything, but he didn't get stuck in, because he was one of the only kids that wasn't crying. There was quite a few kids who started crying and stuff. Somebody went home. And what do you do in that situation? Because as a parent, then you want the best for your kids. You want your kids to you want to protect them. You don't want anything to hit them, but then they're not being resilient then, are they? Because then they're not getting a backbone, if you like. But then is that the old way of parenting? And I don't know I genuinely don't know what's right. I genuinely don't know what's wrong. And I haven't got any opinions on it. I know there's 2 ends of a spectrum in what I can see in parents. There's one parent who he had his father-in-law there, and the kid came over and said, "I'm really, really cold." This is my life, by the way, not Carra's book. And he said, "I'm really, really cold." And the grandparent came and said, "You come here, you worry. I'm gonna put the coat around him. I'll keep you warm." And then the parent, my dad mate, he said, "What are you doing? Get him out there. I used to play this all the time. Get out of it. You can't get your coat on. Get out there. Get playing football." And I respect that opinion. And then there's another parent who literally every single time it's raining or cold or whatever, then he's constantly asking him to put his top on, make sure you're warm, put your hat on, and really caring and considering that way. And then there's another parent who literally wants the best for his son, but he does it in a different way because that's how he's been brought up. And I'm thinking, maybe it's because I'm so aware of things that I don't know which one's right, and so I question and think about things. And is it the constantly on at your kid to improve and tell him where he's wrong? Is it the way he's huddling up in a corner and trying to keep warm with his granddad and saying, "Get out of there, you're playing football, that's it, I used to play in these conditions, you'll play in these conditions"? Or is it the really caring type who's, "Put your coat on, you're all right, make sure you're warm, here's something to eat because it's cold and stuff, oh, well done"? Which is the way? Honestly, this is a mental brain dump for me because I don't know the way. I don't know the way to best parent, and I'm not struggling, but I'm questioning myself all the time. And it's interesting with this book because that's my biggest takeaway with Carra. His dad, he clearly think that was good for him in the long term, throwing some boots and saying, "Don't ever you fake an injury." Don't get me wrong, if my kid's faked an injury because he didn't want to play, I'd be really upset. But then I think, have I done it before? Probably. And so, but then I want my kid to be better than me. So therefore, yeah, would I be upset? Yeah, I'd be upset because I want him to show character. I want him to show that resilience and to push through and desire. I think desire is the word. And so that was the biggest takeaway for me. And he said that since then, I've never ever faked an injury before. I've never cared when it was windy and rainy and wet. I mean, I wasn't a good footballer, but I did play, well, not a high standard at all. I played in the Humber Premier, and I played with people who were a lot better players than me. But the reason why I played in that team is because I knew I wasn't as good as them, but what I could offer the team is something different. As soon as it was raining, snowy, whatever, I didn't used to ever wear gloves, and we used to have long sleeve t-shirts. I used to pull up my sleeves no matter what it was, wind, rain, snow. And I used to think, come on, right, I've got this. This is where I shine because I've got the bigger desire, I've got the bigger heart, and I will go into battle with you. And I used to love playing against people with gloves because I used to think, and when we first started, I said, you're not wearing gloves, Zach. When he was 5 years old, you're not wearing gloves, don't care how cold it is. You're sending a message to your opponent. You're not strong enough. You're not mentally there. But then I've fallen a little bit from that because now I let him wear gloves and I want him to wear a hat if it's cold and stuff. And yeah, but I only go from my personal experience. When I was playing against somebody with gloves, you was mine. You was mine straight away because I knew that you didn't want it as much as I wanted it. So I don't care if you're a better footballer than me. I would play better than you, and I would first tackle. I would smash you because I know full well that you don't want it. You do not want it because otherwise you won't be wearing gloves. And maybe that's completely wrong. And that's why I was in a team I was in because I used to love the physical side of it because you could see if somebody really wanted it. Where I don't know if so. As you can see, I don't. And it took me, by the way, it took me a long time to get to that point where I was confident physically and I wanted that battle. So, in terms of parenting, I don't think there's any right or wrong, to be honest. But is there a right and wrong? I don't know. I'm in both camps. I'm in one camp one week and another camp in another week. So my kids are probably going to get a right. They're going to be right messed up because one week is, get it stuck in there. You're okay. Oh, and then next week it's, oh, come here, buddy. You're cold. Let's get you a towel. I don't know. And so that was my biggest takeaway from a book. It just got me, as you can see, it got me thinking, and it was thought provoking. And especially for me with a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old and how we parent and stuff and what do we do. And it just got me thinking where Carra, his dad, was really hard on him, really, really hard on him. But then would he be a footballer? If it weren't for how hard, probably not. Because you've got to be resourceful, you've got to be resilient, you've got to have that desire, you've got to have that heart. And if you make it too hard for people, too easy for people, then they don't have that heart, they don't have that desire. But then it's tough to make somebody have that desire. I mean, I've been questioning myself a lot recently about where my heart comes from and desire in business. And I think it's because when I was a kid that nothing was really ever good enough for my dad in a good way because he wanted the best for me. It was literally, I suppose, me in business now, excuse me, is an offshoot of me subconsciously wanting to get his attention, wanting him to say I've done well. And therefore I've pushed myself to be better all the time when it's been tough and stuff. I've pushed through it. I've worked a stupid amount of time, hours. I've done all that because I've got that why, I suppose, internally burning. And so maybe that's the reason why I've been successful. But then equally, does that mean because I'm not as pushy with my kids that it's going to be hard for them to be successful? All these questions all the time. And you just question if you're doing the right thing being a parent. Bloody hard being a parent, bloody hard, because you want what's best for them. And so therefore you try to give them the easy route, but the easy route is never the right route. And I always said that the worst thing, but best thing I ever went through was Lazo failing, the restaurant. That failing has definitely helped. And if my mum and dad could have alleviated the pain, had the money to answer my problems, they would have done. But then they would have robbed me. They would have robbed me of my growth opportunity. But then if I had the money and saw my kids suffering, would I help him out? Of course I would. But then I'm robbing him of that opportunity. So I don't know. So really, this episode has been about parenting. It's not been about the book really, but it shot off for me. It started making me think on my journey, thinking about being a parent and how I can be the best version of myself I possibly can be for my kid, and how I can make them the best version of themselves. And obviously, Jamie Carragher's dad. And I'm not saying, by the way, treat your kids like shit all the time and then it'll work out, because obviously, clearly it won't. But it's just interesting how Jamie Carragher puts that down to him, and he says, "What would my life have been look like if that," he still remembers it now when he was 7 years old, so 30 years on, he still remembers that as a pivotal moment in his life. His dad chucking boots at him and going absolutely berserk because he faked an injury because he didn't want to play in the cold. And so where's your pivotal moment and where's your pivotal parenting moment? And am I strong enough to do that? Or am I able to do that with my kids? And so, yeah, it was a really good book. Really enjoyed it. But more than that, it shot off in different directions about parenthood for me. So I told you it wasn't going to be a long episode, and it actually turned out to be quite a big episode for me. It was a mind dump, really. Like I said, this episode is all about therapy for me. Is this podcast? It's therapy. All right, guys, girls, thank you for listening. I appreciate you all. See you soon. Bye.